Okay, welcome back. Now what we're going to do is start slicing and dicing this thing to basically symmetrize it to the other side, because right now we can see this side is not looking too good, and that's an understatement. So let's start off with the object we have selected right here, this part that we just created recently. It's going to be pretty easy to do. Let's go ahead and let's double click the image clip viewer name bar there to tuck it away. Okay, now with the object selected, hold down Alt and right click on top of the object to open up a submenu here, and you want to make sure that the object is in object mode, that is to say it has a white wireframe. Use the space bar to switch to object mode, or you can come up here in MCP and click on the word object up here and that'll activate it for you. Select the object, and in this Alt and right click menu, go down to Slice Polygons, and that's going to cut them in half. Problem is, by default, it's cutting them in the x-axis, which is the wrong one. We want it to cut down the middle this way, not this way. So let's go over here to the plane normal and switch from x-axis to z-axis. And now you can see it cuts it straight down the middle. And you want to make sure that the reference mode is set to global, not local. Close that PPG. Now the next thing we need to do is select half the polygons and delete them. Let's go up here to the camera icon. Now let's click on Isolate Selection. Now you can see this object is cut in half. What we need to do is hit Y on the keyboard to go to Polygon Mode with rectangular selection, and just draw a rectangle over all of the middle polygons. And it doesn't matter if some of these polygons over here if some of these polygons over here on the left get touched by the box, only the polygons inside that selection box are going to be selected. So after you've selected half the polygons, hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of them. So now we only have half of the object, which is exactly what we want in reality. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. Because now with this object selected, hit the spacebar key to go to object mode, Alt right click to open up the submenu, and now let's go down to Symmetrize Polygons. And once we do that, switch the plane normal from x-axis to z-axis, and voila, there you go. Instant mirrored object perfectly. So we only have to work on one side and not have to worry about the other side. So we only have to do half the work, which is great. Let's go back to the camera icon and turn Isolate Selection off. And let's do the same for the other part. So we have this part here with the cylinder. Let's go back over here and isolate the selection. And let's do the same thing. With the object selected in object mode, hold down Alt, right click, and go down to Slice Polygons. Switch the reference normal to Z-axis. Then simply hit Y on the keyboard to go to Polygon Mode with rectangular selection. Select half the polygons. Quickly spin around this thing with your camera just to make sure that you did in fact select half the polygons. Hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of them. Go back to object mode, Alt right click, and this time click on Symmetrize Polygons and switch the plane normal to the Z-axis, and there you go. Now in this case you could see something's wrong here. Well, that's because half our polygons are not exactly in the grid. If we hit G on the keyboard to open up the grid, these points here aren't in the middle of the grid. So that's not a problem. Let's activate this well distance just a little bit, and you'll see that they'll hook up and connect how they're supposed to. So there you go. Do that with the distance parameter down here in the PPG for the symmetrize up. So close that, and there we go. That part's done. Let's go back up here to our camera icon. Let's deactivate isolate selection mode. Now we'll select this part. And with this part selected, let's go back up here and isolate the selection again. Alt right click, go to Slice Polygons, switch to the Z-axis again. Close that PPG, hit Y on the keyboard to go to Polygon Mode with rectangular selection. Make sure that you select half the polygons. Hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of them, and there you go. Go back to object mode, Alt and right click, go to Symmetrize Polygons, and we'll switch to the Z-axis and close the PPG. We're done symmetrizing that stuff to the other side. Pretty neat trick, huh? Okay, now let's get out of isolate selection mode by going up to the camera icon and unchecking isolate selection. Now let's open up our image here, and there we go. We're starting to get this thing modeled out and done, really. Well, we're not done, but we're getting it done, so to speak. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to create this cylinder part here, which makes the actual scope itself. That's going to allow you to see in low-level lighting conditions. So let's go ahead and model that. And you could probably imagine that's going to be pretty easy to do because we can use a primitive polygon mesh cylinder. So we bring up a cylinder, double click the image clip viewer to hide the image. Our cylinder is right now in the middle of this thing. Now obviously we have to flip the cylinder on its side, so activate the rotate tool, or you can come up here and type in 90 in the X channel right there, the X field for rotation. And I made a mistake. We're not supposed to rotate in the X, we're supposed to rotate in the Z. Sorry about that. Next thing we're going to do is knock down the base and the V subdivisions to 1 and 1. Let's look at this thing. It's a cylindrical piece. Now right now I have an 8-sided cylinder, which is going to work out just fine. So let me close the PPG. And now I have to use this image as reference to decide how to place this cylinder object. So we know it has to go up here sort of in the middle, and we know it has to be a lot bigger. So let's scale it up. And it's going to be pretty much impossible to tell how much to scale this up unless we're in subdivision mode. So hit the plus key on the number pad of the keyboard a few times to smooth this out and go to sub D mode. We know we have to scale it down because it can't be over there like that. And let's place it about right here. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we do know that we have to continue to scale this up in terms of the of that overall radius. Now let me pull this out right here. I'm going to go to Polygon Mode of raycasting U on the keyboard. I'm going to select all the back polygons and hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of them because we really don't need them. So let me push this back in right here like this. There we go. That's pretty good. Okay, let me look at our reference image here. And the top goes here. It goes all the way around to the bottom. So we probably need to make ours bigger. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Let's make this thing bigger. So let's increase the radius a bit more, move it down so it fits properly, and I'm happy with that. That looks pretty good. So basically the way I have it is the top almost reaches the edge of this flat piece and the bottom comes pretty low, but not so low where it penetrates out through this bottom piece there. So that looks pretty good. Let me hit Alt and 6 to open up my image clip viewer again. Let me go to clips and activate the night vision goggles clip. I had it already open, so I didn't have to import the image. XSI remembers it as a clip. Okay, so let's go to Polygon Mode and select these polygons here. I'm going to move them back to about right here. Is good. And let's get to work. Let's hit Control D to extrude. Pull this extrusion out just a little bit like this. And that's going to create the area where we're going to create this detail, this sort of groove that's cut into the cylinder there. I'm going to hit Control D again, pull this extrusion out to about here. Then I'm going to hit Control D again, pull this one out to about here. And then this one, I'm going to have to scale down because this is this part that's right here. You can see the extrusion comes out to here, then there's a little tiny extrusion, but that one is scaled down. So we're going to scale it down just a little bit like that. We're going to hit Control D to extrude again. And we're going to pull this out to about here. I'm creating pretty much this piece from here to here. That piece that's right there is what I'm creating right now. And that actually looks pretty good the way I have it right now. So I'm going to leave it. Now let's create this part that goes down like this. So I'm going to hit Control D again. I'm going to pull the, scale this down like this. And then pull it out like this to about right there is pretty good. I'm looking at the wireframe cage to determine how far to pull it out. It's going to be something like this. And maybe I'll scale it down just a little bit more. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again. I'm going to pull this out to here, and this is going to be this part that's right here, from here to here. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again, pull it out just a little bit. That's going to be this little part that's right here, that goes from here to here. And I have to scale it down, of course, a little bit. And with that done, I push it in a little bit more, sticking out just a bit too much for my taste. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again. I'm going to pull this extrusion out like this. Now I'm creating this longer piece that's right here. So I'm going to pull it out to about right here. Looks pretty good. And now we have to create this piece right here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude. I'm going to go ahead and scale this out. That's the wrong way. I want to scale it out in all axes like this. To about right here is good. Control D to extrude again. I'm going to pull it out like this, so I'm making this piece from there to there, right there. And I'm going to pull it to about right here. Looks pretty good, right there. Okay, I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again. And I'm going to pull to about right here, and then I'm going to scale down a little bit. Not too much, just a bit. Okay, now I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again, and I'm going to scale this down like this. I'm going to pull it in just a little bit like that. Then I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again, and I'm going to pull it inward about this much. Now it's getting very hard to see what's going on, so I'm going to use the minus key on the number pad of my keyboard. I'm going to hit it several times until I go to this low res version of the scope. And basically I'm trying to get from this point to this point here, which is a little bit hard to do, but let's pull it out. Let's use this handle right here. Pull it out to about right there is pretty good. That looks pretty nice. Okay, now with that done, what I need to do is separate the lens. I want to separate the lens from the rest of the scope. That way it appears to be a separate object, just like the way that it is in real life. So how do I do that? Well, it's pretty simple. With these polygons selected here, the polygons that are going to be the lens itself, I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to extract polygons, and I have two options. I can extract polygons and keep, or extract polygons and delete. So what's the difference? If I select keep, I'm going to create a new set of polygons based on the polygons I have selected. So I'm going to have these polygons 2 times. That's not what I want because I only need one lens. I don't need 2 lenses. So I'm going to hit delete, extract polygons, and delete. And what that's going to do is take the polygons I had selected and literally rip them off of this object here, which was the scope itself, and leave a hole. But there's no hole because the new polygons are covering that hole. So we're good. So with this new object selected, the lens object here, I'm going to hit U on the keyboard, select all those polygons. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude. I'm going to scale that extrusion down like this to about here. And then I'm going to pull it out a little bit like this. And what that's going to do is going to give us a nice rounded lens shape, just like the real one would be. So let's hit the plus key on the number pad of the keyboard a few times to smooth that out. So I'm going to smooth it out 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So the max, basically. I'm going to select the scope and we can see that the hole doesn't match up. Well, we can fix that. Hit the plus key on the number pad of the keyboard to go up to subdivision level 4. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and then 4 times. And that's going to seal up that hole perfectly. Because the lens part used to actually be part of this scope and I didn't alter the size at all, it's going to fit perfectly like a machined manufactured object in a factory or something like that. So if I do a quick little render region here using Q on the keyboard to do that, we can see there's no hole in between the lens and the scope assembly itself. So it fits perfectly the way it's supposed to. Okay, So the next thing we're going to do before we end this video is we're going to detail the housing right here of the scope, basically this cylindrical piece that we created, because right now if we do a quick render region we can see it's looking pretty bad. So we need to detail it. So how are we going to detail it? Very simple. Let's use our image over here, and we're going to basically start to add more edges to create all of these details. So let's do that. Now we said that this area right here was going to be the detail for this groove that's cut into the cylinder there. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to raycasting polygon mode, U on the keyboard to do that. Select this polygon, Alt, and then middle mouse button click this polygon there. Now select the entire loop of polygons all the way around, as you can see. And with that done, what we can do is let's go ahead and scale that. Now when we scale here, we want to make sure global mode is turned on as well as COG. So let's scale in the x-axis a little bit like that to make it nice and thin, just like the picture. And then we're going to hit Control D to extrude. And we're going to use the scale tool. And you want to make sure you use the scale tool using the green and the blue handles right here. So move your mouse between those two until the yellow little box in the center switches sides and lets you know that you're in the Y and Z. As you can see underneath my mouse cursor, it says Y and Z. That's the blue and the green axes. And let's scale down just a little bit, just a hair. Scale it down just a little tiny bit. So if I zoom in here, you can see I scaled down a very small amount. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again, and I'm going to scale on those two axes again, and I'm going to pull it down deeper this time so it makes it look like it's a nice deep cut into the object there. Okay, very nice. Okay, so now do a quick render region. We can see we made that nice cut into the body of the scope there. So all we have to do is pretty much, I'm going to go pretty quick here, and I'm going to start to create edges to create all these sharp details that are on the real thing. So I'm going to select this edge, Alt middle mouse button, click that edge there to select the entire ring all the way around. I'm going to right click, go to split edges with split control, move this split real close to the edge there to make it nice and sharp. I'm going to select this edge now, Alt and middle mouse button, click this edge down here. That'll select the entire ring of edges, as you can see. Right click, split edges with split control. I'm going to move this split up real close to it like that, and that should sharpen that up nicely, and it did. I'm going to select this edge, Alt and middle mouse button, click this edge right there. Right click, split edges with split control. Move this split down like this, so it's really close down here. I'm going to select this edge here, Alt and middle mouse button, click that edge up there. That'll select the entire ring. And I think you start to get the idea. When we want to tighten this up and start to get those nice details, we basically just add edges, like I've said before. We have to basically create a minimum of 3 edges very close to each other to create a sharp edge with sub Ds. So I'm going to keep selecting these rings of edges using Alt and the middle mouse button. And I'm just going to keep splitting and splitting and splitting so that I can get these nice sharp edges that I'm after. Because that really is what's going to give us that nice detail for this object. It really is what makes the difference. So I'm going to keep adding more and more edges to this, just like this. Select this edge, Alt and middle mouse button, click this edge. Then I'll select the entire ring, right click, split edges with split control, and bring that split to about right there, real close. Do a quick render region of that, and it's starting to look like the picture. Awesome, isn't it? Select this edge, Alt and middle mouse button, click this edge, and since I've been using the split tool over and over and over again, XSI remembers, so I'll use the period key, which is the hotkey on the keyboard. Never mind that. Edit that part out of the video. And we're back in 3, 2, 1. Let's right click, split edges with split control. Split that right there. Select this edge, Alt middle mouse button, click that edge. Right click, split edges with split control. Bring that up. Select these edges again. And we'll just keep splitting over and over again. You could use the period key on the keyboard to repeat the last command that you did, which in this case was the split edges with split control. Keep making that nice and sharp. That's looking really nice. I really like the way that's looking. Let's fix this back part here. Split edges with split control. Move this split real close right there. Very close. Closer you get it, the sharper it's going to be. And kind of like the way that that looks. I'm going to make another split, but I'm going to make the split on this side over here. So let me select this edge. Alt, middle mouse button, click that edge. Right click, split edges with split control. I'm going to bring that real close over here to make that nice and tight. And what I want is, if I do a quick run the region here to show you what I'm talking about, this part I want to be sharp, but this part I want to be nice and round, because that's the way that this looks in the picture. But I do need to straighten this out a little bit, because if we look at this from the side, we'll see that there's too much of a groove down here, of a slope, and I'm not liking that too much. So I'm going to select this edge, Alt middle mouse button, click that edge, right click, split edges, split control, and bring this back, not all the way because it's going to sharpen it out, but just a little bit like this. And right there in the side profile, you can see it looks a lot better. So I'm going to keep it like that. And then over here, I'm going to go ahead and add a split to the same exact set of edges. And I don't want to bring that all the way, or maybe I do. Actually, that looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to keep it like that. I'm going to keep this set of edges real close to the edge right there. And in this part, I'm not going to mess around with too much because I want it to be nice and roundish, because in all honesty, that's how the picture looks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's do a quick little run the region here, see what we got. Wow, that looks nice. That's beautiful. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great. Really nice. Now we do have another groove here detail, which I forgot to do before, but that's not a problem. Select this edge, Alt middle mouse button, click that edge. Let's right click. Let's go to split edges with split control, and let's see where that split should be. Actually, it looks like it's already positioned in the right spot. Yeah, I like where that is. I like where that's located. Nice job of XSI pretty much guessing the spot for me. I'm going to select this edge here. Alt, middle mouse button, click this edge. That'll select the entire loop of edges all the way around. Kind of get this out of the way here like this so you can see this better. Okay, now if that loop of edge is selected, what I'm going to do is right click. I'm going to go to bevel components. And I'm going to use this distance slider in the bevel up PPG to make this really thin. Like this is pretty good. Close the PPG. I'm going to zoom in, go to raycasting polygon mode, U on the keyboard. Select this polygon, Alt, middle mouse button, click that polygon. That should select the entire loop of polygons. As you can see, it did, which is perfect. Now what I need to do is hit Control D to extrude. Use the scale tool, making sure that global and COG are activated. And we're going to scale in the Y and Z axis. That's the green and the blue. We're going to scale down just a hair. And just a little bit like that. Then we're going to hit Control D to extrude again. And again, we're going to scale in the Y and Z axis. Bring this down to make a nice cut into this thing. And then hit Control D to extrude again. Pull it down just a little bit, and there we go. That makes it nice and sharp. So now let's see what we got. Very nice. Excellent. That's beautiful. I love the way that looks. So let's look at the picture. Let's do a quick run the region of the scope itself. And there we go. That's not looking too bad. That looks pretty faithful to the picture. And that's really saying something, considering we're pretty much eyeballing this thing. So you can see how quickly and easily you can model realistic objects. just by using a simple picture. You don't even really have to have some kind of schematic view in the background of your viewports. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to end this video here, and in the next one we'll just pick up and continue working on finishing up this set of night vision goggles.